values today, the entire international community is observing and celebrating human rights. We too are celebrating. On this occasion, I would like to highlight about the origin and the development of human rights. For the first time, the Greeks, in their famous play, Antigone, used the two words human rights. Antigone or Antigone, pronunciation after all, differs from man to man. Anti, that is a syllable word. Anti means born. Gone, G-O-N-E, gone, means against. Born against. Or, that is, Antigone is the name of a girl. And it was the whole entire play was concerning about the slave that's there. And at that time, it was used. Other than this, Cyrus Salen's king, who conquered Babylon in 539 BC, and Babylon came under his rule. Immediately, he realized his mistake and ordered all the people who were enslaved by him, ordered to free them because of the knowledge what he had at that time. Came to know the reality of human life, and as such, freedom was given by him. Later, you might be knowing Magna Carta of 1215 gives the idea of human rights. The American Independence Act, French Revolution of 1789, Bill of Rights of the American Bill of Rights, English Bill of Rights, all of these are the evidences before us. Not only this, in the year 1651, you might have heard the names of three contractual thinkers, such as Thomas Hobbes in his greatest work, Leviathan, John Locke in his famous work, Two Treatises on Civil Government, Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, in his famous book, Social Contract of 1770 something. In all these three works, they have used categorically about the natural law theory in which they have mentioned the natural rights to life, liberty, and property at that time. Later on, the idea of human rights came in the minds of the people of the world. That is why Rousseau's social contract. Great people of France were very much influenced by the writings of Rousseau. And as a result of this, the revolution took place. Because of the want, they wanted the rights. That is why French Revolution of 1789 was actually the great one, which gives the ideas of human rights. And later on, how the development of human rights took place. That is, in the year 1945, immediately after the Second World War was over, under the leadership of Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister, and Jeffrey Roosevelt, the President of the United States of America, thought of arranging the conferences, meetings, which were held for the establishment of the World Organization for Peace purpose. And in the last conference, which took place in San Francisco, where the two leaders invited other countries also. 51 countries of the world at that time assembled in the San Francisco and to discuss about the establishment of the World Organization, that is United Nations Organization. And at that time, the 51 countries' leaders who were there demanded for the inclusion of the human rights in the Charter of the United Nations Organization. The Charter of the United Nations Organization begins with these words, "We the peoples of the United Nations." In that, the other things also are there. Apart from this, they demand that there must be inclusion of human rights. And as a result of this, in the year 1946, the General Assembly appointed the Human Rights Commission, UN Human Rights Commission, in the year 1946. The Commission and requested the United Nations Economic and Social Council, the third organ of the United Nations Organization, requested to have a meeting with the Commission to appoint a committee for that purpose. And in turn, Human Rights Commission appointed a drafting committee under Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of the then President of the United States of America, Franklin D. Roosevelt. She was made as chairperson of the drafting committee on human rights. And she was given the time to draft it. And in the year 1948, the draft was submitted by her to the Commission, and Commission in turn submitted it before the General Assembly of the United Nations Organization. And the General Assembly accepted it. And as a result of this, this day, December 10th, 1948, Declaration of Human Rights. Human rights were declared. Right now, at that time, 51 countries were there now. 193 countries have become the members of the United Nations Organization. The human rights are made compulsory, and all the countries in their constitutions have adopted it. And the human rights are classified into three types. That is, the first generation human rights, which are called as blue rights. That is, there is a covenant, International Covenant on Human Rights, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The civil and political rights are supposed to be called as blue rights. That was drafted in the year 1954. But the draft was completed by 1966. The same was implemented in 1976. See how much time they took. And the second International Covenant on Social, Economic and Cultural Rights, which was also drafted in 1954. Draft was completed in 1966. The same draft came into force in 1976. That is, the rights which come under the second generation of human rights. The second generation human rights. First generation human rights are called as blue rights. The second generation human rights are called as red rights, red human rights. The third generation of human rights is called as collective rights. Collective. No color is given to that one. Collective color is given to that one. So in this way, we see all this in the human rights. Apart from this, the human rights are mentioned in the Charter of the United Nations Organization under Article number 1 to 30 of the United Nations Charter. 1 to 30. Clear-cut mention is made regarding the human rights. What are the human rights? I don't want to deal with all those human rights now because the time given to me is very short. So that's also here. And just I would like to highlight other things what are there. That is actually in our country. In the year 1993, when at the center, P.V. Narasimha's government was there. In 1993. In 1993, the Parliament of India passed an act which is called as the Human Rights Protection Act of 1993. According to this right, it deals with the creation of two commissions. That is, one is National Human Rights Commission, National Human Rights Commission, and state level, State Human Rights Commission. These commissions, what they deal with, if there is a violation of human rights. Anybody can approach these commissions. The state level commission is there, the central level commission is there, national level commission is there. Anybody who is suffering from the violation of human rights, they can approach. If they approach properly, they will be solved. But what is going on? I don't know how it is going on in other countries of the world. Just what is going on in our country. Step by step, what we are seeing, that there is a large human rights violation. Human rights are not followed properly. Take the example, individual is not following the human rights. The individuals are not following the human rights. The institutions which are not following the human rights. And that is why it has become just what I would like to say. Just it has become farce. Human rights farce. Just human rights drama. It has become. So, in this way, the human rights elsewhere they are observing, celebrating. We are celebrating human rights on this day by arranging the functions like this, and you will hear something. I will also hear something, and by going outside, everything will forget. Things going on like this. With these words, I thank you. The chairman of the committee and all my dear friends and my dear students. Thank you.